However long the night, the dawn will break. Life can sometimes take such unforeseen turns that it becomes difficult to take everything in. 1 second you can be dancing in joy, and the next minute the world seems to fall apart. However, no matter how tough the feeling is, suicide should never be an option. It's often said, when one door closes, another one opens. But there are times when everything around us seems closed. Every path seems barricaded. Every desire seems lost. And in times like these, ending life may seem like an easy way out of the misery. But please remember, all the misery and sadness will surely end one day, and you will definitely see a bright new day. September 10th is celebrated as World Suicide Prevention Day. It is an awareness day observed in order to provide worldwide commitment and action to prevent suicides, with various activities around the world since 2003. To bring words of inspiration and wisdom to those who need it, we have here with us today Dr. Lavina M. Noronha, Director, Ave Maria Palliative Care, Vamanjoor, Mangalore, a residential hospice facility for the terminally ill. She is also the trustee of Sushek Charitable Trust and the coordinator of Mangalore Suicide Lifeline. Dr. Lavina, on completing her MPhil from NIMHANS Bangalore, worked as a counselor at Chetana Counseling Center for 4 years. Being an academician, she obtained a scholarship for doctoral studies at University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, USA in 1994 and obtained her PhD in 1998 for thesis entitled Parental Response to Suicide Attempts of Adolescents, a Narrative Analysis. Post her doctoral studies, she worked as an employee assistance counselor at University of Illinois and as a crisis respite counselor at Mental Health Center of Champaign County in Urbana-Champaign, Illinois. She also served as an associate professor and director of the MSW program for 8 years at Our Lady of Lake University, San Antonio, Texas, and also worked for Vitas Innovative Hospice as a triage counselor. She has presented and published many papers on stress and coping, mental health, spirituality, death and dying, suicide, palliative care, and cancer. She is also a trainer of life skills, effective classroom management, stress management, suicide prevention, cancer awareness, mental health and well-being, and is engaged in counseling children, adolescents, and couples. A voracious reader, she is also interested in music, travel, and gardening. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Lavina M. Noronha.
World Suicide Prevention Day is being celebrated today worldwide. On September 10th, every year the world celebrates Suicide Prevention Day and draws attention to this pandemic of suicide. We hear about growing numbers of suicidal deaths every year, everywhere, all over the world. Working together to prevent suicide is the motto of this Suicide Prevention Day. International Association for Suicide Prevention, IASP, is the global body which is responsible for spreading awareness about this pandemic of suicide, to generate awareness among people so that they can work together to prevent suicidal deaths. This is a global opportunity for suicide prevention and also intervention. So we're going to see how bad is the situation or what is the extent of this problem. Suicide is a public health crisis. more than 8 lakhs people die every year to suicide. And this is globally. And of the 8 lakh people, 17% or 1,35,000 are from India. This is according to Registrar General. One suicide takes place every 40 seconds worldwide. Suicide is also the third leading cause of death among teenagers 14 to 19 years. In India, every hour about 15 people resort to suicide. And of these, every 55 minutes, one student dies of suicide. So this is the situation of the pandemic. There is good news. Suicide can be stopped. It is preventable. That's why we are here to talk about this. 80% of all the people who commit suicide give some kind of warning before the act, before they kill themselves or before they take their own life. That means we just have to know what these warning signs are so that we can prevent. Therefore, suicide is definitely preventable. Now, what are these warning signs? Sudden changes in mood, normal to sad, normal to angry, sometimes happy. There are variations or fluctuations in mood. Sadness, which cannot be explained. Now, everybody feels sad, but this sadness is overwhelming and it lasts a long time. There is sudden withdrawal from everyday activities of life. People neglect self-care. They are not able to pay attention or concentrate on studies or what's going on. Activities and interests that they really enjoyed before no longer interest them. Some people also express a suicidal idea or a death wish. For example, sometimes you feel or they express and say, I wish I was not born at all. Death is a better option to life. So when these suicidal ideations or wish to die are expressed, it's important to pay attention. Some engage in secretive behaviors like collecting means to kill oneself. So out of the blue, if someone is buying things to annihilate oneself, then it's important to ask questions. Why do you need that for? What are you buying? For example, a person who doesn't have a well at home suddenly goes to the shop and buys a rope. So it's important when you find out about this to ask them, why is the rope for? So they are making plans and procuring means like collecting tablets or whatever means they can lay their hands on to think about destroying themselves. Some feel helpless, hopeless. It's like the feeling is there's no light at the end of the tunnel. They feel it's gloomy. There's nothing they can do about the situation they are in. They feel hopeless. They feel helpless. I have no idea how to go on with life, and death is a better option. They also suffer from sleep problems. Some people sleep a lot. When you're sad, when you're not interested in anything, when things are not going okay, they sleep a lot. Some people don't sleep at all. They just cannot sleep. So when these things happen, too much sleep also is an issue. Not being able to sleep also is an issue of the same situation. So when these changes take place in sleep patterns or intermittent sleep disturbance, they sleep for 2 hours and they get up and they're not able to go back to sleep again. Some people wake up at 3 a.m. or 2:30 a.m. and then they're unable to go back to sleep. So these changes in sleeping patterns also need to be noticed. Their appetite also decreases. They lose interest in eating. They don't eat healthy. They indulge in unhealthy eating and drinking patterns. There is lack of energy. They don't feel like doing anything. Nothing interests them anymore. They don't have the energy to carry on with everyday activities. Among students, we see a lot of other warning signs. There is sometimes sudden deterioration in academic performance. They are not able to concentrate on studies, not able to pay attention, not able to complete the academic tasks or projects, or they start some things and they're never able to complete them. They go on from one project to another, one thing to another, and then at the end they feel overwhelmed. How am I going to complete all these things? There is also some behavioral changes that we see in students. They give away possessions, like their favorite stamp collections or cricket paraphernalia collections or whatever that is very dear to them. In the US, there was a boy who just emptied his locker, decided to empty his locker one day, and he gave his stamp collection to a classmate. He was 9 years old in 4th grade. He gave his stamp collection to somebody and he gave his baseball card collection to somebody. So the people friends or classmates who got these gifts just said thank you and went home. They never asked him a second question. He had a nice, beautiful pen that was gifted to him by his uncle. And he gave this pen to a boy who used to walk home with him every day. This particular boy, another 9-year-old, asked him, "What's going on? I saw you emptying your locker. You're giving away things that are very dear to you. So sit down and tell me." And this fellow says, "You don't understand. You will not understand, even if I tell you." So the boy says, "You try me. You tell me what's going on." And he says, "I don't need them anymore." "What do you mean you don't need them anymore?" "I won't be coming to school. So I don't need any of these things associated with school." "What do you mean?" "Because I'm not going to be alive tomorrow." So he says, "You're crazy. What's going to happen to you?" "I'm going to kill myself." So this boy, the friend, really got curious. He says, "You're really foolish." So the fellow says, "I told you, you will not understand. And that's why I didn't want to tell you." "No, it's not that. I'm saying you're foolish because there has to be some reason." "What is the reason?" And he says, "My father and mother are getting a divorce. On Monday is the court hearing. Today is Friday. I just don't want to be alive to see my father and mother separate. I don't want to be in 2 different homes after Monday. Because the court will decide to give custody to one parent during the year and decide to give custody to another parent during summer months. And I don't want to be alive to see that." So he says, "You're really foolish. At least you be happy, your parents will be alive. You don't understand the pain of having parents separated." So the boy says, "I don't have parents at all." "What do you mean?" "Yes, I was in a car accident when I was 6 months old. In the car crash, both my father and mother died. I am being raised by my grandmother. I have only seen the pictures of my parents. So she's my father, she's my mother, and she's my grandma." "But you never mentioned that." "Yeah, there was no need to mention. I've just accepted it and I'm moving on. So you take your pen back and be happy your parents will be alive. They'll be in maybe 2 separate homes and you have to visit them in 2 different homes. But you're lucky your parents are alive." So fellow grabbed the pen back. When he grew up, he graduated in psychology. He's a motivational speaker for suicide prevention. And when he wrote his first book, he dedicated it to his friend Stephen, who decided to return my pen back. That's what he wrote in the book. So if not for this return of the gift, I wouldn't be alive. So many times when they give away their possessions, we have to pay attention. Like sending goodbye notes. "Thank you for being a great friend." "What do you mean you're saying thank you out of the blue? So you don't have to thank me." So suddenly somebody is writing a thank you note to somebody. Should send an alarm. It's not that everybody is suicidal who is writing a thank you note to a friend or a family member. But you can ask questions. Why did this happen? Sometimes in students we see there is this fixation with death. In music, in lyrics, in writings, in poems, in art. Everywhere death is depicted. So the art teacher can ask questions. Parents can ask questions. You're using these colors a lot. You've been listening to these lyrics a lot, which are very gloomy. So all of a sudden, upbeat music lover is suddenly becoming very sentimental or picking lyrics which are very negative, in the sense there is death theme depicted in those lyrics. So parents can ask questions. You seem to be enjoying this music a lot these days. What about this drawing? Why are these colors used? What do they mean? So when you ask questions, you just give them an opportunity to get some explanation or answers for them. Students also engage in reckless behaviors. When someone is suicidal, sometimes they are also homicidal. I'm going to die, so I don't care if I kill someone else also. So this reckless behavior, accident proneness, or risky, dangerous behavior, drinking and driving, racing, high-speed car chasing, motorcycle rides, all these things are seen among teenagers a lot, among youngsters a lot. So all we have to do is keep an eye on these warning signs and respond to them. What usually drives these students over the edge or drives youngsters over the edge? One is unrealistic expectations, sometimes from self, sometimes from other people. Sometimes there are family issues. Some people just want to excel in life, want to do better, want to do the best. Sometimes there are family issues like violence, domestic violence, marriage problems, financial issues. There is alcohol and drugs. Sometimes students use them to medicate themselves, self-medication. When I feel upset, I drink. When I feel upset, I do drugs. So these are a dangerous or volatile combination. When a person is feeling sad and upset, alcohol and drugs can actually make them feel worse, not better. Students also youngsters can have mental health issues, borderline personality disorder, depression, anxiety disorders, obsessive compulsive disorders. Then there is eating disorders, too much obsession with physique and weight and being thin and exercising. Everything has to be in limit, that when you cross the limit, it requires a little bit of professional attention. Some suffer from low self-esteem. No matter how much they accomplish, they suffer from this underlying low self-esteem or a inferiority complex. I am good for nothing. Everyone else is better than me. So they compare themselves with other people and then start feeling gloomy about themselves. Sometimes there is also stress, academic, financial, social. There are rejections from friends, relationship breakups. All these things culminated or together can make a very, very volatile combination. Not everyone who experiences these becomes suicidal. Many people have inbuilt resilience. They are able to bounce back even after a breakup, after a failure. They think that, okay, failure is a stepping stone to success. But not everyone feels this way. So we have to be careful. There are some myths and facts about suicide. We feel that, we hear all the time. Those who talk about suicide never do it. This is actually a myth, because many times people express their idea or wanting or intent to kill themselves. And we have to pay attention. Suicide attempt is a cry for help. Yes, if I don't get attention otherwise, if no one is listening to me, sometimes I make an attempt in order to draw attention to what I'm struggling with. When a student talks about dying, he or she should be distracted. This is another myth, because we have this phobia about suicide. We feel that talking about suicide will make people suicidal. So it's important to encourage people to talk about suicide and not to distract them. What's going on? Can I listen? Can I help you? Can I take you somewhere? Another myth is all suicidal people want to die. This is not true. All suicidal people want their pain to end. No one wants to die, but they feel there is no other option. That's why, in order to end the pain, I have to kill myself. So this is also a myth. Males usually kill themselves more often than women. This is true, because they use more lethal methods. Women attempt more, men complete suicides more. Suicide is a cowardly act. Many people believe this, think that people who are not able to face life run away from life by killing themselves. It takes a lot of courage to kill oneself. Only when things are not going okay, when they are overwhelmed, when they are in this emotional turmoil or psychological pain, they feel like killing themselves. It's not that they want to run away. They don't see any other option. So we cannot condemn people who are even thinking about. They need help, no doubt. And we have to do whatever we can to give them that help. Those who talk about suicide under the influence of alcohol and drugs should not be taken seriously. This is another myth. Alcohol is a depressant of the central nervous system. So when a person feels sad and the person has a couple of drinks, the person feels more sad, not that the person feels better. So when under the influence of alcohol, people lose inhibitions. So they are more honest about their feelings. We have to pay attention to what they feel. And when they express suicidality, even under the influence of alcohol and drugs, they have to be taken seriously. Any mention, any drawing, any passing comment about life is not good, death is better, should be taken seriously so that we can pay attention to them. Suicide doesn't happen overnight. Usually it begins with an idea. Sometimes it's a fleeting thought. Once in a while people feel, death is better when things are not going okay. But then they snap out of it. So sometimes this death wish or an idea becomes a thought, which becomes more, instead of fleeting, it becomes more frequent. Instead of once a month, it becomes once a day or every hour. And then it becomes a plan. When they really think about, if I do this, I can kill myself. That becomes a specific plan. That is a little bit more serious. And then there is a suicide attempt. They want to carry out the act. All attempts are not successful. That's why we call it suicide attempt. And finally, when a suicide is completed, when death takes place, we call it completed suicide. So it all begins with an idea and then finally culminates. So there's a lot of time. People make plans as if they are going on a trip when they think about suicide. It's not always impulsive. Sometimes it is, but always it is planned 6 months before you see changes. So people have to be made aware of these changes. What can you do as parents? Pay attention to changes in your ward, in your child. Be open-minded. Do not judge. Don't impose your values, your ideas on them. Listen to them. Listen to what they have to say. They don't like advice. They don't like lecturing. But you have to listen to them. Respond with empathy. Yes, you feel this way. Things must be difficult. Let's see how we can deal with this. You snap out of it. It's very easy for people to say. And for students, it's difficult to snap out on their own. So they need help. And it's your responsibility to get them some help. You have to lead them to safety. When you see certain signs, but many times parents express and say that, I wish I had known. I knew it was coming. There were changes 6 months before. I have seen changes. I had seen changes one year before. I could have done something. I should have done something. So there is no room for shoulds and coulds. You have to take action when you see these changes. On the same campus, there are counselors, campus counselors. You can refer your children to them. You encourage them to seek help. Sometimes medication may be required beyond counseling. When the person has difficulty sleeping, when the person experiences panic attacks, when mental health issues are more prominent, then they need medication. So not everybody who is crazy goes to a psychiatrist, or everybody who goes to a psychiatrist or a counselor is not crazy. These are the myths that we have among us. So we have to break them. We would rather have our children alive than dead. So forget about family status, forget about family prestige. What can I do to make sure that my child is mentally healthy? Should be the focus of all parents. Will this make my child happy? Will this make my child healthy? What can I do to bring back this health status? So together we can make a lot of difference in students' lives, in children's lives. We have a suicide helpline in Mangalore, which became operational in 2017. So if you know of somebody who requires help, you can refer, maybe for your own child or for somebody else's children or for even adults. This line is open, operational 24/7. The number is 0824 2983444. 0824 2983444. Lifeline volunteers are there at your assistance 24/7. So they can be consulted anytime. You can call them and get help.